Well, before we get on to a new language, a Python-inspired language, I just wanted to talk about a couple of things you can do to support the show. Obviously, Brian and I are both doing things outside the podcast that we think contribute back to the community. That if you want to support what we're doing, it would be great if you could check them out and consider them as you're learning Python things. So I have courses over at Talk Python Training. We have, I think, 170 hours of Python courses and probably a couple hundred hours of exercises for people to do over there. So if you're looking for courses or to learn stuff with Python in general, check out Talk Python Training. And Brian, you have some kind of book, I think.
Yeah, so I think that anybody that wants to learn how to test better should pick up a copy of Python Testing with PyTest. So, a book that I wrote about PyTest, it's not just, it kind of walks through all the different sorts of things you can do in the with PyTest, but also around testing a packaged project. And I think a lot of these carry over, even like switching databases and stuff. These things carry over for all sorts of types of projects. And I've got a lot of great feedback, and I think it's a good thing for people to read.
Yeah, awesome. It's a great book. And both of those things are linked at the top of the show notes. So you all can just check it out in your podcast players. So I'm always fascinated with embedded Python and things like micro Python and circuit Python. And you've got something along these lines, right?
Yes, I ran across this a language called Snek, I think
Snake.
SNEK. So it's at sneklang .org, and it's a Python-inspired language for embedded devices. But my first reaction is probably going to be yours as also. Don't we already have that? Don't we already have MicroPython
We
and
already have two. I'm confused why we have two.
yes, and CircuitPython? Well, actually, yeah, we've got lots. MicroPython and CircuitPython are the ones that we think about a lot. CircuitPython, of course, is focused around Adafruit, but also runs on lots of different other boards as well. But what about really small things? So there's even those they run on these small chips, but there's smaller chips that you might want also. So if you only have a few kilobytes of flash and RAM, and you still want to run something, can you run Python? And that's where Snek comes in. So it really runs on small processors. Even so, it's one of the things it supports is the Lego EV3. So if you don't want to wait for the new robot inventor, you can run Snek on your current EV3. So that's neat. There's also, but it's the smallness. It says its goals. It's not Python, but most Snek Python programs will run in Python, but not the other way around. You can't run most Python in it. So it's got a limited language, but part of that is an educational purpose. So a smaller language footprint. As Python's adding more and more new features, it may be overwhelming for some people when they're just starting out. So having a smaller language is kind of a neat thing. But all of that learning can go towards if you're learning Snek, can transfer that to Python
Right. It's
projects
easy to
later.
level up to Python because it's like going from C to C++. There's stuff to learn, but it'll kind of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's even like a dedicated a new board called the Snek board that you can run that is available. It was through a crowdfunding process, but it runs both CircuitPython and Snek. So yeah, one more thing to be able to run little small chips with Python-like language. So this is neat.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the very, very small devices, I think it's going to mean, Python can appear in more places, right? On incredibly small IoT things and whatnot.
Yeah, or even like even if you have larger though, having I like the idea of people saying Python's just kind of a great syntax. If we strip some of the things out that full Python has, it's still a usable language with a lot of it stripped out. So I think it's a good thing.
Well, that whole idea, I mean, that we could go on and on about that, but the whole idea is pretty interesting because as we see things like Python moving to WebAssembly and running on the front end and talking about maybe having a Python on mobile, as well as the traditional C Python that we know and Python on chips. Like having this concept of a smaller focused subset of Python that is universal. That's pretty interesting anyway, and it sounds like that's a little bit of the philosophy here.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is interesting. See what other things we see like this coming up in the future.
that's right.